The film opens with a shot of a vast desert expanse, dotted with rocky mountains that are both vast and beautiful, making them ideal for desert animal hunters. A helicopter arrives not long after, carrying a man named Richard, and his girlfriend, Jennifer. At this moment, they will go to Richard's house, which is located in the middle of the desert. They plan to spend some time together before Richard's annual hunting trip with his friends. As the pilot is about to leave, he gives Richard some peyote as a welcome gift for his passengers. A few moments later, Richard enters the house and he can see the sexy Jen, who appears to understand all men's desires. Well, they then engaged in a passionate fight in bed for a while. Later in the day, Richard gets a phone call from a woman indicating that this man already has a wife and children. The conversation between husband and wife goes very well, because as far as his wife knows, Richard is only going to the desert to hunt. The next day, Jennifer, who is only dressed in her underwear, goes to the kitchen to get some water. Then suddenly, she is surprised by the presence of Richard's friends, who have arrived a day early from their planned hunting trip. Richard looks annoyed to see their early arrival, because he had intended to keep his relationship with Jen a secret. Therefore, since they have already arrived, Richard is compelled to let his two friends to stay there. One of them is Stan, and the other one is Dimitri. When they are introducing themselves, we can see that Stan looks so eager to see the appearance of Jen. As night falls, they sit back and relax by the pool while taking in the breathtaking scenery of the desert surroundings. Dimitri is enjoying himself with his binoculars, and he has developed an interest in the item that the pilot gave to Richard. Richard then explains that it is a type of drug with highly powerful hallucinogenic, that has a very strong effect when consumed. In fact, this such a small drug could flatten a football team, according to him. Richard adds that someone once overused it, and when the side effects kicked in, he sawed off his own leg without feeling anything. In order to avoid that stuff from becoming source of contention among his friends, Richard tells Jennifer to keep it in a safe place. But it turns out that Jen is also intrigued by the narcotics that she has just learned about. So instead of keeping it in a safe place, Jennifer conceals it in her necklace. After that, Jennifer walks out of the house and performs a seductive dance to keep the men entertained. With the pleasures of the night, Jennifer has transformed herself into a showgirl, in the midst of men who are very fascinated by her. Especially for Stan, he is the most passionate, and he is very excited as Jen invites him to join her in her sensual dance. The next day, Jennifer, who has just woken up, is greeted by Stan and taken to breakfast with him. At this moment, Richard is not at home, so Stan tries to take advantage of the situation to get closer to Jen. But it is really unfortunate for him because Jennifer simply ignores him, and returns to her room for no apparent reason. But even so, this man don't want to give up, and continue his efforts in Jen's room. With his disappointed tone, Stan asks why Jennifer is avoiding him, despite the fact that he thought this woman appeared to like him the night before. Jennifer then responds that Stan isn't the type of guy she is interested in, particularly given his short stature. Stan is offended by those words, or to put it another way, he hates that girl but wanted that girl to fulfill his uncontrollable lust. Jennifer, who is afraid, can only surrender to this man's sexual assaults. Shortly after, Dimitri shows up, but he doesn't say anything, and instead just stands there staring at his friend's act. Since Dimitri doesn't want to interfere, he'd rather leave than get involved in the matter. He turns on the TV and increases the volume so he wouldn't hear Jen's screams. After a few hours, Richard returns to the house, and he feels strange to see that his two friends have fallen completely silent. Stan then tells Richard that there's been a slight problem with Jen, but he doesn't say what it is. When Richard goes to see Jen, this woman asks him to call the helicopter right away, because she wants to go home right now. Seeing his mistress keep crying, Richard seems to know what had really happened, so he walks out of the room and simply scolds his friends for their actions. When Jen wakes up again, she keeps saying that she wants to go home now. But Richard only says that his friends will come and apologize to her. Plus, he has also given a large sum of money so that she will forget about the whole thing. Jen is now unable to keep her emotions any longer, and she threatens to tell Richard's wife about their affair if the helicopter doesn't come to pick her up. Then,
who the fuck do you think you are? You little whore?
Richard's outbursts emotions scare Jen, causing her to finally run away from that place. When Richard's two friends notice Jen running away, they join him in chasing after her. A few moments later, Jen's escape comes to a halt when she sees the dead-end cliff in front of her. In the end, Richard and his friends arrive at the place and manage to corner her near the cliff. Richard then uses all of his pleading to express his regret for his actions. He also tries to calm Jen down by calling the pilot to take her home immediately. As a result, Jen can finally calm down seeing that her wish has been fulfilled, but suddenly, Richard pushes her off the cliff, where she is impaled on a tree during the fall. Stan and Dimitri are startled by this, and they don't expect Richard will have the courage to push her off to die. Richard then explains that they will be in danger if they let Jen go, as they could be sentenced to 15 years in prison for their actions. To put it another way, Richard is also worried that his secret of having an affair in the desert will be revealed to his wife. After that, Richard and his friends go back to his house first to pick up their hunting equipment. They will return later to clean up any evidence of the murder, and then continue their hunting trip as if nothing had happened. The scene then switches to Jen, who is still in a stabbed state, and is starting to be swarmed by ants. It's very surprising to see that she is still alive, because the tree branches may not have hit her vital organs. With her body being stuck by a shrub, Jen tries to free herself and notices the lighter she often carries with her. Jen then expends all her strength and manages to grab it. Following that, she attempts to burn the dry shrub, causing it to break and allowing her to make her escape with a branch still stuck through her body. On the other side, Richard and his friends are making their way to Jen's location to clean up her body. Fortunately, the sound of their vehicle can be heard by Jen, prompting her to quickly move from that spot. The condition of her stomach, which is still stuck by a shrub branch, makes it difficult for her to move. But she still manages to hide just in time, and makes the three of them surprised when they realize Jen is no longer in that spot. They then assume that she had been rescued, or that she had run away on her own. Therefore, the three men will try to find a way down the cliff to confirm Jen's whereabouts. When Jen hears that they have left, she takes this opportunity to walk away from where she is currently. Since the distance to go around to get down the cliff is too far, these three men can only get to that spot when it is dark. At this point, they start to wonder how Jen could simply disappear. And at the same time they manage to find traces of Jen's blood, so they immediately follow the blood trail. As they continue to follow the trail of blood, their journey comes to a halt as the blood trail comes to an end in a lake. So the three of them then plan to split up to find Jen, but Stan seems to be hiding his fears all along, and he prefers to just wait in the car in case she would come back. Meanwhile, Jen, who has been bleeding profusely, is still able to escape with her remaining strength. But from a distance she can hear the sound of a vehicle looking for her. In the midst of her panic, Dimitri appears with his quad bike, and goes away after not seeing Jen there. It turns out that Jen is hiding by holding her breath in the water. Once she has made her way to the shore, she sees Dimitri not far from where she is. Jen considers this situation as an opportunity for herself, because she sees Dimitri's left his rifle next to his vehicle.
Take it easy, take it easy.
Dimitri, who has been caught off guard, tries to calm Jen, who looks eager to kill him. But unfortunately,
Did you really think I was that fucking stupid?
it turns out that Dimitri only lured her by placing an unloaded weapon far away from him. Dimitri immediately informs his two friends, but he first wants to torture Jen before bringing her to them. Fortunately, Jen manages to grab the knife from Dimitri's pocket. As a result, Jen manages to stab Dimitri, killing him and leaving him in the lake.
I've been dreaming, love, I'm in love.
Jen then continues her escape with all the equipment she got from Dimitri. But the journey doesn't last long, because the vehicle she's riding runs out of gas. That means Jen will have to walk again with the branch still stuck in her stomach. Not far from there, Jen comes across a cave and intends to rest there for a short while. She is still in pain due to the wounds she suffered, and the wounds that are too extreme makes it difficult to treat it. When Jen sees the necklace she is wearing, she suddenly remembers the narcotics she had hidden the other day. At this point, she also recalls the effects that illegal stuff can have on people. Jen then eats it right away without giving it a second thought. Even though it tastes awful, but Jen has to eat it because she desperately needs the effects of the drug. Not long after, she starts to feel something different in her body that she can't explain. The hallucinogenic effects of the narcotics begins to react, where Jen starts to hear voices and experience severe hallucinations. In a semi-conscious state, she begins to prepare the emergency treatment for her wound. Jen, who now can't feel any pain anymore, finally does a very painful thing. As the knife slashes through the skin on her abdomen, she looks calm with no expression of pain. After she manages to remove the branch from her stomach, she burns the tin of the drink and places the hot tin on the wound in her stomach to stop the bleeding. The next day, the scene shifts to Stan, who is still sleeping in the Jeep. It turns out that it is Richard who throws the dead animal, since he failed to find Jen and instead got the game. At this moment, they still don't know the condition of Dmitri, who has actually died. Stan, who has just woken up, walks to the lake to wash his face. But suddenly, he is shocked when he finds Dmitri's dead body emerging from the lake. But unlike Richard, he appears to be suppressing his rage over what happened to his best friend. Plus, he assumes that his friend's death is Jen's doing. They are then left with no choice but throw their friend's corpse in the lake. After that, Richard vents his temper, blaming Stan that he should have accompanied Dmitri before, but he instead sitting quietly in the car. They then leave the location while thinking of other ways to locate Jen. Back to Jen, who is now recovered from her wounds, where she gets the bird symbol from the beer can in her stomach, due to the treatment she did before. She then takes her rifle and rushes out of the cave. It turns out to be just a bad dream, and the effects of the drugs causing Jen to have bad dream over and over again. Once Jen has fully regained consciousness, she prepares herself to continue her journey. In other words, the journey this time isn't about escaping, but it's about getting back at them. Jen, who looked weak previously, has now turns into a strong and courageous woman. With unstoppable emotions and a shotgun in hand, she starts to look for Richard and Stan's whereabouts in the desert. On the other side, Richard and Stan have found the quad bike that Jane had taken, and they are planning to split up to check around the area. Richard then leaves Stan first, while Stan, who still feels pain in his nose, takes a mirror to check the condition of it. But he is completely unaware that the reflection from the mirror he is using lets Jen to know where he is. Therefore, Jen doesn't waste any time, and rushes to follow where Stan is going. Despite the fact that she is barefoot, this injured woman continues to follow him. After Stan has been driving around the desert for a while, his car starts to run out of fuel. So Jen uses this opportunity to take direct aim at him with a weapon, plus an 8x scope. At this moment, Jen, with no experience at all, tries to aim at the vital parts of her target. The bullet only hits Stan's shoulder, and she can hear Stan's voice screaming in pain. When Jen gets back to her feet, she sees that Stan is no longer there. But Jen is able to follow the steps of the person who had raped her, by looking at the splattered blood on the ground. Meanwhile, Stan, who is already injured, puts on a sock to stop the bleeding. Jen, on the other hand, has lost track of him when her blood trail comes to a halt at a spot where she only finds his shoe. Stan, who is now hiding, loads his weapon with bullets in order to kill Jen from behind. However, he appears to be having difficulty aiming due to the gunshot wound to his shoulder. Then suddenly, because of the injured hand, the shot missed and luckily only hit Jen on her ear. Jen, who is already injured in her ear, immediately runs away while Stan continues to shoot her. With a shard of torchlight, she tries to stop Stan's pursuit. Fortunately for her, the shards of glass manage to injure Stan, where he is now struggling to remove the shards of glass that have stuck to his feet. He then manages to pull the glass out, and because he is no longer able to run, he returns to the car to chase Jen. The huge wound on his leg makes it difficult for him to step on the accelerator pedal. But because of the anger that overtakes him, he ignores the pain he is experiencing. Jen finally manages to kill the person who had raped her before. After seeing Stan's condition, Jen begins to hear a walkie-talkie call coming from Richard. As a result, her hatred grows even stronger as she hears the voice of the person who almost killed her. Richard, on the other hand, appears to be very disappointed that he is unable to locate Jen. Moreover, Stan did not show up at the location they had previously planned, and did not respond to his walkie-talkie call. He is now tired and annoyed, and finally decides to return to his house. As Richard gets home, he looks very stressed with the situation he is going through right now. He also thought that Stan, who had not returned, must have been killed by Jen. So he plans to leave the desert by contacting the helicopter pilot to take him. After that, he immediately cleans himself up before leaving the place. But he suddenly hears a suspicious voice, forcing him to check even though he is completely naked during that time. He thought that Jen has come to the house to kill him, but he finds nothing suspicious inside or outside the house.
Hi guys, if you haven't heard of the
Richard is then startled by the sound of the TV, and suddenly, his fear of Jen's arrival becomes a reality. It is at this point where Richard now seems to be unable to do anything with the situation, as Jen has targeted him with her shotgun.
Listen, let's...
Jen's shot hit Richard in the stomach, causing them to engage in a firefight with one another. After being overwhelmed, Richard is forcing himself to walk away with a gunshot wound to his stomach. And Jen continues to chase him, but when Jen is about to enter the room, she is unaware that Richard is waiting to shoot her. Fortunately, the blood flowing from Richard's stomach caught him out, prompting Jen to find another way. Richard, who is getting weaker from losing a lot of blood, uses a food wrapper to stop the bleeding. Not long after, Jen manages to find him and a chase ensues between the two of them. Until one moment, the blood on the floor causes Jen, who is running, to slip. This situation allows Richard to attack her easily, and Jen, who is already weak, can't do much more to confront the man. Finally, Jen is forced to use her ultimate move by attacking the wound in Richard's stomach. She then takes the rifle and manages to kill Richard with her final shot. In the end, the three men who abused and almost killed Jen finally get what they deserved, and her revenge is finally over. With the body caked with blood, she takes several satisfying steps outside before turning around when she hears the sound of a helicopter approaching.